Andrew, on today's show, we are interviewing Curt Mercadante.
Oh, Curt.
Curt Mercadante.
Mercadante.
Try it one time.
Mercadante.
Curt Mercadante. And he's going to teach us today about the 5 pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle. How to design a schedule that you will love and how to create true time freedom with both your life and business.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes. It is always ecstasy when Z is next to me. Sir, how are you?
You know, I'm still trying to figure out how to respond to that because I'm not sure you really know what the word ecstasy means.
You
so
don't,
I'm always a little perplexed in how to say thank you.
Well, it's an overwhelming. That's what ecstasy means. An overwhelming feeling of great happiness or joyful excitement.
Well, of course, and you should be. Of course,
it's
there's nothing weird
ecstasy
about
when you're
that.
next
There's
to me.
nothing weird about that at all.
How dare you question my I don't just rhyme because I can. Now, on today's show, we have Curt. Curt's on the show now. Curt, let me tell you about this guy, Curt. He's an international speaker. He's a trainer. He's a disruptive entrepreneur. He's a nice kind of disruptive.
Yeah.
Curt, welcome onto the show. How are you, sir?
I am doing excellent. I'd say if I was any better, I'd be twins. But as you see, I couldn't even deliver it, and I just stole it from you guys. So.
Now, Curt,
it's a great try, though.
There's a lot of debate right now. A lot of listeners right now are Googling your name right now, and they want to make sure they pronounce your last name correctly. Can you just set the record straight for the listeners?
Yes, Mercadante. And it's so long that even I've misspelled it.
Mercadante.
So no worries.
A lot of pressure.
Whoa, a lot of pressure. You got to rise above that name there. Impressive. All right, now, so
how do you spell it?
It's a Mercadante.
Yes.
A lot of pressure.
M-E-R-C-A, and then Dante, like Dante's Inferno, D-A-N-T-E.
Okay. Now, Z, we're on a show with a guy with a very, very fancy, sophisticated-sounding last name, and he's written this book called The 5 Pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle. Curt, what is this book all about?
It's about being able to build a life that you actually design rather than having the limiting and false belief that you're confined to a lifestyle by default. There's people in this world that simply let life push them around. There are those who decide that they're going to impose their will on life.
I want to, just for a second, because I want to get into your background, but Z, I want to take the show notes and I want to say, bah. I want to ask you a lot of things there, Curt, all at the same time here. I was a disc jockey when I met Dr. Zellner. My wife worked at his optometry clinic. She was
sweet lady, by the way.
19. I was 19. We got married when we were 20. And my wife told me the rumors about this optometrist who never saw patients. And I thought, what?
That's weird.
And then I realized this man also owned other companies. And then years later, I found out that this man owns a bank. And this is the man on the show with us today, Dr. Zellner. And I remember one thing that you told me, Z. We were having a man cave session.
Yeah, one thing. Well, good thing you remembered one thing.
And you were sipping on Lagavulin.
Yes.
And I was sipping on some girly wine.
Drink, which really hurt my man heart.
And you said to me, hey, why don't you set some goals for your fun? Why don't you do something fun? And I'm like, what do you mean fun? He goes, well, why don't you do something fun? And so the room we're in, the actual podcast we're doing.
Yes.
And the
subsequent outside space.
The man cave. The waterfall, the hot tub, the whole thing, it's all you're doing, Dr. Z, because you prompted me to think about fun goals. But again, I had typecast myself, Curt, for years as a disc jockey. And my wife was the one who let me know that I don't have to be one of the few adult men on the planet who's a disc jockey and who DJs every single night and weekend and every single holiday. So, Curt, what would you say to somebody like myself who was 27, who had a very successful multi-million-dollar company called DJconnection.com, who has bought into the false belief that I had to DJ every night and weekend for the rest of my life because that was my life?
Well, I open up all my trainings with the simple question, who are you?
Ooh.
And invariably 9 or 10 out of 10 people get up, raise their hand, and what do they say? I'm Jim, I'm a VP of marketing, or I'm Jane and I'm chief of sales. And I asked them, I said, I don't want to make you feel bad, but when you came out of the womb, did you have a name tag on that said Jim, VP of Marketing, or Jane, VP of Sales? And we come to identify ourselves by the amount of money we bring home in our paycheck, which, by the way, is not an unimportant thing. But we're more than that. We're a husband, we're a father, we're a wife, we're a sister, we're a friend, we're, whatever it is. There's much more that make up who we are. But so many of us, I have 4 young children, and I regularly ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, it changes on a weekly basis, but we have fun with it. And my 8-year-old son recently said, I want to be a movie director and a spy. And I smile and we talk about it. You know what? Somewhere along the line, people stop asking fellow adults, and we stop asking ourselves, what do we want to be when we grow up?
True.
And people get to 40 or 50, and what happened? They went to college or they studied something. You have kindergartens canceling theater programs because they're not career and college ready enough. And so you have people at age 45 who have lived their entire life based on what was set for them by their parents. Well, I don't want to major in finance. Well, no, you got to major in finance because that's what you do to get a job. And they come out at 45 and they realize, like you did at age 27, I could be more than a DJ. I can be more than a banker. I can be more than whatever. But at age 45, sometimes it's tough, right, to break out of that. Because
right.
I interviewed sales trainer, best-selling author Anthony Iannarino on my podcast, and he calls it the drift, where all of a sudden you're drifting along, things are comfortable enough, you're making decent money, something's missing, but the money's just good enough that you can ignore it, and you drift along, and then suddenly something happens, and you turn around and you're like, I don't like this, but you look up and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm 700 miles offshore. What the heck do I do now?
Right.
That's why I wrote this book.
Now, Z, I want to get your take on this because you're a guy who I've noticed with your career, Z, you refuse to put labels on. I mean, people want to say you're just an optometrist or you're just an auto auction guy, but you refuse to do that. I think the only label you put on yourself is probably that of an entrepreneur. Z, how are you able to break out of that typecast of you can't do anything else just because you're an optometrist only? And was there anybody who tried to keep you in that path? Because I think Curt can talk more about that. But Z, did you ever feel like trapped, or like the people wanted you to be trapped into that optometrist title?
Well, I tell a story. I've been Aunt Connied before. I had an Aunt Connie.
True.
And R.I.P. Rest in peace, Aunt Connie. She's no longer with us, and she was a really sweet lady. She was my mom's older sister.
She was a great rapper.
Great rapper. Yeah, there's Christmas presents always. She always get the seams really good. Is that the kind of rapping you meant?
Yeah.
Anyway, she pulled me aside one day early in my career and sat me down with this look that only an Aunt Connie can give you. And she gave me that look like, Robert, I'm so disappointed in you. You could have been so much more.
You could have been in the Wu-Tang Clan with me, Robert.
You could have been.
You could have been in the Wu-Tang Clan. You could have been a rapper like
every
me.
now and then DJ pops out at me. So,
Sorry.
Curt, you just got to kind of go with it, So, so anyway, and she went on to regale me with her ideas of what I should have been, what I could have been. I was smart enough to do. I should have been a heart surgeon. I was going to do this. I was going to do that. And she was just so disappointed. And oh my gosh, the whole family was just looking forward to all the great things I was going to do in life and blah, 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 blah.
Screwed it up.
I let her ramble on. And then when she was finished, I said, well, Aunt Connie, I appreciate your opinion, but that's what it is. It's your opinion. I want you to know, here's all the good things I'm doing. Here's why, and I enjoy what I'm doing and what I plan on doing with that in the future, and just kind of laid out that. And I looked at her and said, I don't need your approval. I don't need your disapproval, but I'm happy with my life, and that's really all that matters to me. And you can have your opinion, but understand that this is the path I've chosen, and this is what I plan on doing. And she looked at me and she goes, see, I knew you were too smart to be doing what you did.
Unbelievable.
The point is, we all have people in our life that look at us and think that, we're in over our head, or we're not doing what we should be doing. So everybody has an opinion. What you do is the answer to the question is you forget about it. Let's water off a duck. I mean, what does it matter? It doesn't matter.
I want to hear, Curt. Curt, what did you start off doing? I mean, you had a ton of success now, but before you wrote this book, where did you start? Where did your career start, and what was life kind of like growing up for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I had a great teacher who we differed politically, but he was a political science teacher. He got me so excited about it, and I truly believed that to save the world, I had to get involved in politics. And I had always had this, my siblings were much older than me because my parents were both married before.
Okay.
And my dad was a real life Tony Stark. He worked on the space program, designed
Cool.
fighter jets, do all this cool stuff, right? And
Sweet.
so I always had this feeling like I got to save the world. And I'm kind of an only child because my siblings weren't around. So had a lot of self-play, superhero movies and all that. I'm like, I'm going to go into politics. So I did. And I went to the University of Iowa. I volunteered on campaigns. I ran campaigns, got into that, then moved from that into public relations, did that. Worked on Capitol Hill for a while, came back and we were living in Washington, D.C. for a while. My wife got pregnant. She wasn't in the political scene. My dad was getting ill at that time. And so I said, let's move back. And you know what? I'm 28, but I'm starting my own company. I don't care. People say, well, you've never been a VP of anything, much less a president of anything. You've never started anything. I said, yeah, well, I'm going to start my own business.
There we go.
So I did. I started a PR agency. We morphed and started doing a lot of online advertising, all that. So within the first 4 years, I was making mid to high six figures, and I was totally overwhelmed and frustrated because I was taking every client who offered me money, regardless of if they were paying me what I was valued. I was overwhelmed. I was frustrated. I wasn't outsourcing my weaknesses. And I was like, you know what? At the time we had 2 kids. I wasn't seeing my wife and kids, even though I worked from home. So I decided, well, I can either give it up, but to go back to an office job just wasn't an option. So I did something weird. I fired half my clients, I raised my prices, and I started hiring a team around me. So I boosted my expenses and cut my revenue, except for the fact that the next year I doubled my revenue because I was able to focus more. I got rid of the opportunity cost of working with a client who wasn't paying me what I was worth, which left me more time to focus on servicing the great clients
This makes
that
sense.
I valued. And so I went from there. But 2012, my father passed away, and he was my hero, and he'd done all those cool things. Actually, when he was 54, 55, was mid 80s. I was about 9 years old, and he found himself out of work. And he, you're in your mid 50s. It was hard for him to find another job. He had been president of these companies and all that. So he was out of work for about 2 years, and he was looking. I never heard him complain about ageism, anything. He ended up we needed money. He ended up getting a newspaper route. We would deliver the newspaper. I can't remember if it was the Tribune or the Sun-Times.
Yeah.
And they would get me up at like 3 a.m.
Oh, there we go.
I would go to this thing. I hated it, right? And we'd bag the newspapers. My hands would be black and blue or black, white or whatever. And then we'd go out and he'd drive the station wagon. I'd throw it out. And I never heard him complain, nothing. It was, more than anything I ever learned in school. I learned so much from that.
Yeah.
Because shortly thereafter, my dad said, you know what? I'm done being a victim. He decided he started his own company, reinvented himself as a management consultant, went on to have an incredible career working for Siemens, designed all the electronic switches in the Boeing 777. So when he died, 80-year-old men in tears, right? Not a one person at his wake mentioned a thing my dad did in his career. It was all about husband, father, volunteer, and all that. And I decided there and then, you know what? I'm not doing it right. And, I decided to make a change, didn't know what it was. Fast forward to several years later, peak revenue of my agency. I woke up one morning and said, I'm done. And I went and told my wife I'm done. And she said, it's about time. And I started speaking, training, and coaching.
And how long ago was that? Was that years ago or fairly recently?
About 3 years ago.
That is, you know what? This deserves a Chicago.
Holy cow!
Oh my, there we
Because
go.
in Chicago, you like to say.
Wrong team. Oh my God.
You don't like the
he's a Sox.
Really?
I was going to ask him, are you a Bear fan?
You know what? I grew up a Bear fan, but the NFL, I watch so much college football on Saturday that by the time Sunday rolls around, my wife's like,
Yeah. Who's your college team?
I went to Iowa, so I'm a big Hawkeyes fan, and my dad is a Notre Dame grad, so I watch Iowa and the Fighting Irish.
Do you like the Bears?
I'll cheer for him, but I grew up watching them. I was a big, Super Bowl, New England Patriots, Walter Payton,
Bears.
Fridge. Yeah,
85. Yeah. The Bears.
Do you like deep dish pizza?
I did, but I've been gluten-free for 10 years, so I can just smell it and imagine what it tastes like.
Now here's what we're gonna do, Z. I'm gonna give Curt Mercadante. I'm gonna give Curt. With 5, we've got about 10 minutes to cover 6 big things. Okay. And I want to have an opportunity for Charles and Amber to ask any question they want to. So we're going to go fast. So this is a lightning round, Curt. Here we go. Lightning round. Here we go. You're not too busy. Your day is just too full of boop, boop. What do you mean?
Yeah, so often when I ask people, what did you achieve today? They said, oh, I was so productive. I got 15 or 20 things done. I tell them that's not productivity. Productivity is achieving more of the right outcomes with less effort. And often we listen to the hustle and grind pornographers that are out there, sleep when you're dead, just
Hustle and
just
grind
muscle through it.
pornographers.
And they fit 3 hours of work into a 14-hour day.
Shut
busy is a choice, and just getting stuff done is not true productivity.
Now, Curt, you talk in your book about breaking the deficit-based development model. My first question would be, what does that mean?
It means focus on your weaknesses, which is what we learn as kids from our parents, from teachers, from coaches, etc. Focus on fixing your weaknesses.
In your book, you talk about wondering where freedom is lacking in your life. Check your Freedom Index score. What does that mean?
Yeah, in the book, there's about 10 statements, and just ask simple questions. Do you agree with these on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, are my relationships excellent? Is my mental and physical health excellent? Do I have a job that fulfills me? With my significant other, if I have a significant other, do we go on at least 2 dates per month? And half the people, when I say that, say, I could never go on 2 dates per month. That's crazy. The other half says, only 2 dates per month? I say, exactly. So there are questions like that to determine if you have the freedom in your life that you desire. And if you're at around a 5 or a 6, you deserve a 10.
I would like to get your take on this, and then I'll let Amber and Charles ask any questions they have. When I changed my schedule, when I changed my schedule after selling the DJ business, and I had a schedule that was open. Z, I'm sure you've never had this, but people discover your schedule's open. They discover that you have time, because they might call your assistant or call someone. They used to call Tanya and say, Tanya, with his schedule, is he open today? And she would say something like, well, yeah, he's got nothing scheduled today at all. He's going to be doing this and doing that. And at the time I was doing consulting one-on-ones with about 40 clients. But I would meet him maybe once a month. I would leave, do homework. I'll come back next month.
Yeah.
So she'd say, oh, he's free. He's open.
He's free. He's open.
And then so I'd find my schedule being filled with, I'm speaking at the local Chamber of Commerce. I'm speaking at the local Rotary. I'm speaking 11 times in a month in different cities. And all of a sudden, I'm just traveling around doing things that so for you want to be a speaker, and you're a great speaker. From what I can tell from the clips I've watched, you're a very good speaker. For me, I don't like traveling. I like to just hang out in the man cave. How do you, Curt, advise your clients to say no when they finally do create that time freedom? How do you advise them to say no to the neighbor who says, "Hey, I noticed you're not doing anything. Could you help me move?" How do you teach your clients to, you know what I mean? Because now I confidently say, I will absolutely not help you move, but I will pay $200 towards the cost of a moving company, but I am not going to help you move under any circumstance. But thank you for asking. But how do you advise your clients to say no?
Yeah, I mean, time, a lot of people think money's not renewable. It is. I'm not saying it's hard to renew, or it's not hard to renew, but time is the only unrenewable, non-renewable resource. So, in the book, I lay out 5 pillars of the freedom lifestyle. I'll talk about the middle 3.
Yeah.
You have a clear life vision, right? You reverse engineer that vision so that every year, every month, every week, every day, just the 3 outcomes you need to achieve every single day, and just 3, not more than 3, to win that day. That alone allows you to say no to the things that maybe I should do. Every day there's a million things we could do. What are the 3 things you absolutely have to do? So vision, but then becoming radically outcomes focused. Outcomes is another pillar. And then smack dab in the middle is alignment. A lot of people talk about work-life balance, and I want you to take that term and throw it out the window, because that assumes that work and life are separate. There's only life, and how we spend the time in our life is entirely up to us. But a lot of people don't time block things outside of their life. And I had one guy who said, what, do you just waste away? And I said, no, my day is full. But I've identified the things outside of work with my relationships and my self-care that fulfill me. So my days are jam-packed, but they're jam-packed of things I want to do. And work-wise, they are the things that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt move me toward my vision. So my vision and my outcomes and my clearly defined aligned life allow me to say no to whatever does not fit within there.
Ooh. Charles Kolaw, do you have a question for Curt Mercadante?
Oh, I'm loving it. He's on point there. I would agree with him on so many levels. For myself, I loved fitness and working out, and everybody wanted me to go to college and do all the regular stuff. And my fitness is really kind of being a trainer. Ended up building a multi-million-dollar business without college at all. I actually went back way later on. But the big point is finding my purpose, which you talk about in some of your stuff I've been looking at. And when you find your purpose, it's like you can't get enough of it. And, finding that work-life balance, it's something that's it's different for everybody. And, but yeah, I love some of your stuff I've been looking at. It's awesome.
I appreciate it. Let me ask you, I compare it to the people in the gym who are there for 2 or 3 hours and they think they're working out, but the guys, the meathead, they're checking out the girls. They're talking to 5 people, every 10 minutes.
How much can you
They're
bench,
doing all this stuff.
Bruh, how much can you bench, bro?
Sorry.
They might be doing extra exercises that they don't need to do, right? And then you look at people who consolidate it and are in much better shape, and they consolidate it into 20 or 30-minute workouts. Well, often entrepreneurs, they do that equivalent of they're in the gym 3 hours, but are you actually working out for 3 hours, or are you wasting time? And a lot of entrepreneurs do that same thing.
Z, you are known for the Irish goodbye.
The Irish bomb?
I've seen. Z, have you spent a lot of time researching the Irish goodbye?
I've tried to.
You do it. You just don't talk about it. You do it.
I do it.
As soon as you're done, it's the Irish people. It's a thing called the Irish goodbye.
Okay.
And it is where whenever you're no longer needed, you just leave, and you don't necessarily have to make a big deal about it. Now that's the opposite of the Minnesota goodbye, which is where I'm from. Is like this. We would say, Kurt, what time do you have to leave? And you'd say, I got to leave at 7. All right. Well, about 6:55. Well, I tell you what, let me help you get your coat on. And then, let me walk you out to your car. And then we wave at you. Let me help you. Do you know where you're going? And we'll follow you down.
I get my plate that I brought my hot dish in?
We will literally follow you down the driveway. Then it will occur to us that we have not given you your hot dish plate back yet. In this charade, this schmockery, if you're from Minnesota, you know that I'm being truthful. It takes an hour to say goodbye. But you, Z, just leave.
I just leave.
Z, is that intentional? Have you decided that you're just going to leave when you're not needed?
Why would I waste a lot of time telling everybody that I'm leaving?
But
just
very
don't
few
figure
people
it out.
do this. You
don't
just
figure
leave.
it out.
You
don't
just
figure
leave.
it out. Don't figure it out.
You're sneaky at the conferences. At the conferences, Curt Mercadante. He will come to the conferences. He'll come in, do his thing, and then he leaves. And I'm like, where'd he go? Like, he's gone.
He's gone. Where'd he go? I thought he was here.
I
guess he's gone.
Amber, have you had to learn to be able to be effective with your time at COLA? I mean, what questions would you have for Curt? Because I see you guys living the life that he writes about here. Would you have any question or a question for Curt on behalf of our listeners, maybe, or one that you would like to know the answer to?
Well, yeah, I think on behalf of the listeners, I would say, Curt, you're totally speaking our language. Charles and I take multiple dates a week and would have it no other way. We run our whole life. Our schedule works completely to please us, above our kids, above our families, above our staff. We don't let anybody touch our schedule. Anyway, we love that. So we've been doing that for quite a while. And how would you tell the listeners out there, like, what's their first step to move in that direction?
Oh, yeah. Step 1.
Yeah, you got to determine where you want to go. It is that vision, because so many people bounce from like a pinball from objective to objective, and they think that's their purpose. And then at some point you hit a wall and you're like, well, where am I headed? If you're going to take a trip, unless you're like Rambo and you have a knife and you're running into the woods, right? You know your destination, where you want to go. And now you use Google Maps to reverse engineer it for you. But you take that. In the old days, we'd have a map, and then you'd reverse engineer the straightest, simplest, shortest route to get where you want to go. And often we try to plan to our vision. It's like throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks, rather than really defining, what do you want your life to look like? Magic wand time. If I could design my life, what does it look like? Getting that clearly designed, writing it down, telling the world, and then reverse engineering it. So that way, like you said, you can protect your time. You know what's important, and you can say no much easier.
Z, I don't know if you heard what I just heard there, but it sounds like Curt Mercadante was teaching us how to create a magic wand.
I know, a magic wand from Mercadante.
Dr. Zellner, what is your question for
Why
Curt
do I sound like
Mercadante?
these when I say Mercadante?
What is your question for Curt Mercadante?
I call you out, Mercadante.
Nice.
This internet is not big enough for the two of us. Wait, I think it actually is. Thank you, Al Gore.
Thank you, Al.
It's really fun to see people out there, writing books, helping people in their journey of life. Coaching them up, because we believe here that it's all about, you learn from mentorship or mistakes. And Clay and I've made so many mistakes that, that's how we kind of teach. We're like, okay, well, don't do this because here's why. But it's really fun to see your stuff and to see you out there speaking and your book. It's fabulous, and we want to recommend that. So if anybody wants to go get your book right now, where's the best place to go get it? For someone to connect with you right now, they say, listen, I need some more Mercadante. Where do I go and how do I get more Mercadante?
Because my name is so long and hard to spell, I'll give you the address for a landing page on my website, which is fivepillarsofreedom.com, spelled out, 5 spelled out. And you go there and you can get chapter 1 of the book absolutely free, but it's also a landing page on my website, so you can find all my other fun content.
Well, that's not as much fun as saying Mercadante.
Kurt, I really do.
No, Kurt,
appreciate
here's a
you.
serious question.
Serious
though.
question.
You could go back in time. This is one of my favorite questions. You go back in time.
If you could turn back time, do it.
20 years and talk to yourself, or back when you were just a young snipper. Say, self. This is weird, but I'm you in the future.
Self in the past.
I know. What advice would you give yourself?
I would tell myself that I don't know everything. I came out of college pretty arrogant, and I didn't listen as well as I should have to mentors. And it was, a learning mindset is a growth mindset. I used to be much more dogmatic. That doesn't mean you don't have truths that you hold dear and values that you hold dear that are unwaverable, but to look at the world in a new fashion every day, to have that learning mindset, because the learning mindset's a growth mindset.
Interesting. Mercadante.
I tell you what, for the listeners out there, if you've yet to Google search this guy, look up Curt Mercadante, and you will see an unbelievable beard.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It's a beautiful thing.
He's got
really.
some beard oil working on that.
I tell you what,
That's
impressive. Right? They're using Vidal Sassoon on that beast, or what are you doing to maintain that?
It's a goatee within a beard.
It's good. I can't grow facial hair. I can't grow
beard.
facial hair. I'm jealous. Kurt, I am jealous of you.
Well, I've had people ask me if I actually dye it, and I grew it from Movember in 2016, and I had people tell me, and at the time I still had my agency, oh, well, so-and-so isn't going to like that beard. You got to cut it. And the more people told me that, the longer it got. And so I just kept growing it.
You rebel, you. Mercadante.
Well, Kurt, thank you for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I will we'll get this show released here. It'll be sometime during the month of December. So December is what we're looking for.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun.
All right. You take care.
Take care, Kurt. Thanks for being on the show. You bet, buddy.
Z, real quick, before we do our next interview, I want you to hear this. I want you to comment on this. This is Al Gore talking about his creation of the internet. Okay, we're still live here. Here we go.
I want to get to some of the substantive domestic and international issues in a minute, but let's just wrap up a little bit of the politics right now. Why should Democrats, looking at the Democratic nomination, the process, support you instead of Bill Bradley, a friend of yours, a former colleague in the Senate? What do you have to bring to this that he doesn't necessarily bring to this process?
Well, I'll be offering my vision when my campaign begins. It'll be comprehensive and sweeping, and I hope that it'll be compelling enough to draw people toward it. I feel that it will be, but it will emerge from my dialogue with the American people.
Z, get ready for your comments. Get ready.
I've traveled to every part of this country during the last 6 years. During my service in the United States Congress, I took the initiative in creating the Internet. I took the initiative in moving forward a whole range of...
Now I'm going to back this up. I'm going to hit play again. I'm going to play it back to you.
The initiative in moving forward a whole range of initiatives that have proven to be in creating the Internet years. During my service in the United States Congress, I took the initiative in creating the Internet.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
So I just want to thank Al Gore officially
on the show. Thank you, Mr. Gore. What's his latest title? He was a senator when
he was on the board at Apple. Made a lot of money.
Good job. No, I mean, thank you, Congressman, Senator. I need to look that up.
I just want to thank you for making this show possible, because without him, the show couldn't be possible.
No, it could be.
And we would not have had the warning labels on the CDs. Tipper Gore came up with the explicit lyric warnings on the CDs.
We could have put this podcast, this show, on like VHS tapes and just gone door to door.
Thank you, Al Gore, for helping us make sure that this show is not a VHS show.
Do you have beta or VHS?
We talk about it a lot. We thank Al Gore a lot for inventing the internet, and I just wanted to share the root of that
per day.
We would just mail out hundreds of thousands of VHSs.
Andrew could do it. This door to door stuff.
Thank you, Sincerely, though. A lot of times we joke around, but let's just be sincere.
Okay, it's
Can we
easier.
end the show? We want to say, we'll do 3, 2, 1, and then just thank you, Al
Am I
Gore.
thinking Andrew if we're going door to door and selling our videotapes?
Okay, so thank you, Al Gore, and 3, 2, 1,
Boom.